making friends. My name is Joey Balestrieri. Welcome to my work table and my channel. I am having a blast. I've been playing with this collection of beads for about the last hour. This is the Deluxe Czech glass bundle from didi'sbeads, and I cannot believe how much was included in this bundle. And I have been playing, like I said, for about an hour to make a really fabulous bracelet design. And I did a lot of this before I started filming because I really wanted to play with the beads and work out like the best pattern. And I think I have a good start. You know, everything is subject to change, but I've been just playing with some of the bead patterns. And really, I have to tell you that I didn't get anything from my own stash except some seed beads. There was so much in this bundle. So I have these little Czech glass Miyuki 80 seed beads, and they have a Picasso matte seafoam. So they just went really beautifully with all the blues and greens and pinks that were in this bundle. And I don't even think that the owner of didi'sbeads was trying to really curate this collection. It's supposed to just be a sampling, but with Czech glass, you can just put it together in so many amazing ways, and this is no exception. I mean, this is just amazing how much is here to work with. So let's dive right into where I'm at. I did take a couple of elements from the Didi's Deluxe bead box. I have a separate video for the unboxing and also for a project where I did a jewelry set with that. So I can link those videos below. But in Didi's Deluxe bead box for the month of May, there was this bonus item, this micro pave cubic zirconia toggle clasp, and it is just absolutely stunning. And also in that box there was this strand of gold plated little disc spacer. They're hematite little disc spacer beads, and they are just amazing. And I have put these in every single project that I've done, which so far is 2, 3, with the earrings I'm making, I don't know, 5 or 6 projects, and I still have this much left over. So Stella, the owner of didi'sbeads, is really generous when she puts together a collection. She gives you what you need to work with, and like I said, I didn't have to really supplement from my stash. I've kind of combined the two things that I got from her this month. So let's dive right into this. I started out wanting to do a unique design, a stringing project where my bracelet would go from a single strand, branch out into a double strand, become a single strand again. And I've been playing with that, and I just wasn't liking the way it was looking with my flower beads. So I have created this little cluster here that is all strung right on 2 strands of beading wire. And so that's all I have done, is just played with the placement of the components that I made till I got the cluster the way that I like it. And those little he/she beads that she found, honestly, when I work with her products, I wonder how she sources her beads, because these are like the most amazing. They're beautiful, but they're so useful in design, these little spacers. And so what I did, there were a few of these beautiful Czech glass flowers, I think 4 in my bundle, and they are just gorgeous. I've saved this out and this out. Look at this little Czech glass like flower bud bead. I've never seen this before, and I love it. I love the shape, the color, everything. And so I've saved out a few here with a head pin just for my little charm, my dangle for my bracelet. But what I did, essentially, I'll show you, is create a component where I just strung my head pin through that little bud bead, and then one of those little hematite gold-plated beads, and then right through the center of that flower, which is just so, what a beautiful component. And then I did wire wrapped loops, so they are ready to be strung in a pattern. And so the only thing with Czech glass is you never know what size the holes are going to be, and so there's a little bit of mechanics to this bracelet, because I really want this leaf bead to be strung flat off of my cluster. but the 2 strands of my bead stringing my wire do not fit through the hole. So I'm going to have to be clever, because that's the way I really want my bracelet strung. And I just think it's beautiful to go for the open part of that, you know, crystal like toggle right there. And then I think I'm going to actually branch out into 3 strands on this bracelet. So I've already started playing with some patterns. So let me show you the bead stringing wire. I am using the champagne color, the Extreme Flex from Soft Flex Company. This is a 19-strand bead stringing wire, and it is extremely flexible and it's very thin. But even so, 2 strands did not want to go through a couple of the Czech glass beads, but that's okay. I want it the way I want it. So what I plan to do, let me just set this out of the way and this out of the way. What I plan to do is put a crimp bead right here. I'm going to make my loop. I'll go ahead and crimp off this end. So let me switch my little bead bug to this side. I've already worked out that pattern, so there's no sense losing those. And I just have some gold filled number 2 crimp tubes. I'm going to need 3, I believe, unless I decide to change my design, but you know, which is subject. Things are subject to change when you're designing, for sure. So to start off with, I'm just going to put one of those crimp tubes over both of my wires and just let it go all the way down. What I want to do, this is going to be a little bit strange, but the mechanics of this bracelet are just working out this way. What I want to do is give myself enough space here. I want to crimp right here so that this is stabilized, and then I'm going to cut away one wire and then thread on my little leaf bead, because I just really, in fact, I'm just going to check it before I actually do the crimping. I just really loved the way this bead looked, just flat coming out of my cluster, and I just wanted it that way. And so once it is crimped, I know that my second wire does not go back down through this bead, because I have already tried it and it doesn't at all. So what I'm going to end up doing is putting a second crimp tube here, and then that's where my clasp is going to attach. I think that's going to work. So when I only have 2 strands of 19-strand beading wire, I like to take a little scrap of the wire that I'm already using and just insert it into that tube. And it is just a dummy wire, and all that does is take up space inside your crimp tube. And I just find that I get a better crimp. It's more secure. There's no empty space inside the tube. And gravity kind of helped me here. And I'm going to place my magical crimping plier. For those of you who have never seen it, it's just got one little divot inside, and I'm going to get a hold of my number 2 tube and get it centered the best that I can in that well, and then close the jaws of the plier with the dummy wire and my 2 working wires inside. And now when I take that away, you can see that I've pinched the 4 corners of the tube, and now I just take a second to fit it back in that little well, but sideways, 90 degrees from the way that I first did it, so it looks like that, and then close the pliers again. And now you just gently open and close the pliers as you either turn the pliers or your work. And like I said, with this little cha-cha section, it's a little bit in the way, so you just have to be patient, but you just like keep going around, you know, 4, 5, 6 times until you don't feel any resistance, until it just feels like you're opening and closing the pliers on nothing. And I'm going to go ahead and trim away that little extra, that dummy wire, because its job is done. Just fills up the empty space inside a crimp tube. I just feel like I get a better crimp. Just be careful when you do that, that you're not cutting one of your working wires. And now I am going to just lay this flat so I can see. I really love the way this turned out. These leaves were in the mix, and they have their little hole like at the top of the leaf, and I decided just for like the dimension and nothing being flat, just to string it right on the wire, right in between everything, and I just think it looks great. And what I've found with these little cluster sections when I do these on a bracelet is when they're like this, they don't seem to be sitting properly, but once you have the bracelet on your wrist, your body like holds it up like that, so it looks really great once the rest of the bracelet is put together. So that's a little bit where I am going with that. And so now I just need to get rid of this other wire because I already know that, and that can be saved because you can use this for another dummy wire, or sometimes I use it in earring designs. My other little pattern is a little bit in my way. And so now I'm just going to thread on this other leaf. These Czech glass leaves were also in the box, and I am just loving the mix of blues and soft greens and pinks. I just love it. It's so pretty, and I wanted like my colors and my leaves to kind of come out of the cluster, like start here and then go out to the rest of the bracelet. So that is what I had to do because 2 strands would not fit through this leaf bead. And then I'm going to just do another crimp right here. And because this is a little gold bead, I don't even feel like that I need to add anything to this end, because once I crimp that number 2 tube, it's going to have that little dot of gold right at the tip. And I think that's what I'm going to do. And so this is going to be the end where my closure is. And as I said, unfortunately, I cannot fit a second wire back down through this leaf bead. So I don't normally like to cut my wires right where the clasp is. I normally, just for looks, I like to feed it back down through a couple of beads, but sometimes it's just not possible, and this is one of those times. So I'm not going to let it hinder me from my design. I'm just going to get my loop here, and I want a fairly small loop because that pave crystal clasp is pretty petite, so I want like a fairly small loop, unobtrusive, and I am going to put a jump ring through this loop. I just tend to do that. You could feed your wire right through the toggle and back through the crimp tube, but then if anything fails, if there's any kind of an issue, you have to restring the whole piece, where if I put a jump ring here and I have an issue with the clasp or anything, I can just open and close the jump ring. So I tend to like to leave myself that option. And so normally, you know, before we crimp, we would want to check and make sure that nothing is too rigid, but in this case, I don't want any crazy gaps in my little cha-cha section, but I actually do want it to be pretty tight. So I'm just going to take a second and play with my little cluster here and see if I want to tighten that anymore before I crimp. It actually looks really good. It looks really good. Okay, same thing again. I want that little scrap of wire once again, or I can even, I'm going to cut this so I can even take a little scrap right from here. And I'm just going to put that little dummy wire down inside the crimp tube before I crimp, because I don't know if the camera is going to show you, but there is a lot of empty space in that tube, and for this type of crimping, that's not a good thing. So I have always found that if I just put this little wire in here that takes up that empty space, that I get a much better bead and a much tighter, you know, more secure. I mean, the magical crimping plier does a great job of giving you a secure crimp, but this just makes it all the more, you know, all the more better. More better, is that even English? Okay, so I'm just going to do that, and then same thing, get a hold of that crimp tube right in the middle of the well, close it, the 4 corners are pinched, and then opposite direction, and then just go around, opening and closing until that tube is not a tube anymore. It's a tiny little gold bead. I can already feel like that's what it's supposed to do. I can already feel that I'm opening and closing the pliers and nothing's happening. So that indicates that it's a bead. And now I can just trim away these 2 wires. Careful not to cut your loop. And like I said, usually when I make a piece, if it's at all possible, I don't like to trim my wires right here. But I wanted this leaf bead here and it just wouldn't feed back down through. So on this piece, it's going to be this way. It's, well, if you get it good enough, see, it's pretty perfect and there's nothing sharp or poking. So I'm actually really happy with that. Okay, now pattern play, yay. So now I'm going to do something a little bit, in fact, just so that I can kind of see where my design is going, I'm going to go ahead and attach this little sparkly, let's see, I'm going to have to get out another little jump ring for the other side. I'm going to use this one for this side. Look how gorgeous that is. That is so, so pretty. Okay. Now on this side, I discovered in my pattern play that I could actually fit 3 strands through these Czech glass beads, and that's what triggered this design. So I'm going to take this 3rd strand and feed it right through those couple of beads, and this I need to put a crimp tube there and crimp so that that 3rd strand is also crimped. So I have to take this little pattern off that I was playing with, but that's okay. I can string it back fairly quickly. So this is kind of a good little trick if you really want a multi-strand design and all of your stringing material does not fit through all of your beads. You can make it work by doing it this way. Take out a couple more. Okay, I'm just going to gather up all 3 wires and feed on a crimp tube. I won't need a dummy wire this time because I've got 3 in there. And straighten this out just a little bit. I'm so sorry, I had to pause because I got a phone call and it stops my recording when I get a phone call. But all I did is just carefully get that 3rd wire pushed through the crimp tube and through the beads, and it stops like right about there. And I like to leave it flat on my mat. It just helps me to see like that I have it properly spaced, and then I can pick it up now that I have it and see that there's no weird gaps in my stringing. And I do want this to be pretty tight because of my cluster, so I'm going to get it as tight as I can. They're still going to move around. I really like to take my time and kind of, you know, just check everything before I crimp. Like, I think that looks amazing. So I'm going to hold that right there and repeat the same thing. And I've added in my 3rd strand at this point, so then I have the 3 to continue creating patterns and designs with. So I'm just going to repeat, repeat, repeat. I had another interruption and I just wasn't happy with the way that little crimp tube ended up here, and so I just put a crimp cover, a little small one, right on top of the crimp tube. And I just wanted to share that because that is something you can do. Also, sometimes like this bead that it makes, like the crimp tube is a number 2, and that magical crimping plier makes the teeny tiniest little bead. So if that looks too small to you and it just isn't working for you, there's nothing to say that you can't put a crimp cover right on top of that that little crimped bead just for the beauty of it. And that's what I did here. And I may go back and add it here too. When I'm all done, I will assess how my end looks, but for right now I am really happy with my little cluster section of this bracelet. And now my third strand is added in and I am ready to design. And so what my plan was is to use these beautiful Czech glass flowers to create my center pattern. And let me just find that center wire. And so that was my plan. And also I'm making use of these little seed beads, these little 8/0 seed beads, just because you know, it's so that the 3 strands are not competing for space. So a little bit of the bead stringing wire is going to show for sure when 3 strands are coming out like that. But the seed beads help to not have so much competition for the space there. It has been a day. I am back. It's been, I don't know, about 5 hours since I paused. It's just been a day. This is why I love to support women-owned businesses as small businesses, because we do what we do, make things beautiful, do our art, but we also have a lot of other obligations. And so anyway, this bracelet is turning out great. I just had to take another phone call that was over an hour of my son's medical condition. Sometimes, you know, it takes a lot. So while I was sitting here, I did decide some things. So I went ahead and created 3 little bead patterns on these strands. I just was playing around with the beads from Stella's beautiful Deluxe Czech bundle. And it's amazing because it's really supposed to be a sampler, but look at this, you guys. Like, I literally did not pull anything from my stash except those few seed beads that I showed you. It's really amazing. So I just wanted these 3 strands to have 3 different patterns, and I really wanted to feature these Czech glass flowers, and I wanted them to be exactly the same length. So I played around. There's a little bit of on and off the strand to get it right, but that's what I have. And then I really love these little opaque, these are like they look like a child's top. They're so pretty, and I just kind of varied my spacers there, and I need a little bit more length, so I'm going to use another one of these Czech glass flowers to get that length. And I love these. I don't remember if I really shared these with you guys, but these have this ever so slight blue and like golden wash on them. And I really only put one in my bracelet. It ended up here, which it's a great, some of the Czech glass beads do have large enough holes to accommodate 2 or 3 strands, and that one did. So I thought I might use it down here, but I've got my length just right. And again, as I was sitting here playing, I really wanted another one of these Czech glass leaves. And I wish, these are gold filled jump rings, and I wish that I had a larger millimeter. I really would have liked to have a larger millimeter for this leaf bead, but I'm going to actually use 2 of them, and I had to do a little finagling, really open it wide and kind of twist it around to get it through that hole, because I wanted gold filled, because the quality of like the clasp that is in the didi'sbeads, and I wanted to up my materials to a little bit higher quality. And then I'm going to do another one of the little, I guess it's going to be a charm this time, that's in my cluster. And I'm going to add like a little dangle that just goes 180 degrees around the bracelet right here. And that's going to accomplish a couple of things. Just add a little bit more interest and a little bit more movement, but also this section here, you really can't see my champagne bead stringing wire, but I don't know, I just thought this transition from this bead into the 3 strands, it might be a nice place. So that's my plan when I get it all done. That's always subject to change. And so again, I have the issue of all 3 strands not fitting through a Czech glass bead, but 2 strands do fit through this. So I'm going to take another one of those number 2 gold filled crimp tubes and feed it through all 3 wires. And I'm going to crimp right here behind this last little saucer bead little, or top. It's like a spinning top is the shape of it. I know that 3 fit in here, but now that the camera's rolling, it doesn't want to go in. But I know that they go in. Just have to find that sweet spot. There it is. And I'm just going to bring it right down, and this is just going to be another like little gold bead look. I'm going to use my magical crimper and just, I do want to make sure, even though this is a really kind of eclectic, really cool design, I do want to make sure that it goes around the wrist nicely and that there's nothing, you know, no odd spaces. And like these three wires, really, one has to go. This will be good because I'm going to get this down. Use your pliers to help you if you need to. And this looks really great. So back to my magical crimping plier, and I am going to do the same thing I've done on the other parts of the bracelet. Just center it in the well, close the tool. It made that little ravioli shape. Go sideways, close the tool, and just go around and around until the tube is a little bead. So pretty. And you can definitely, if I haven't said it during this project, you can definitely use your regular fold over crimp method and, you know, put a crimp cover or not. I generally put a crimp cover on when I'm doing that method of crimping, but you definitely, if you don't have this tool or you don't like it or you haven't had success with it, I just really love it because especially when I'm transitioning like this, I get that tiny little gold bead look, but it's actually holding everything together. And like now I didn't even remember when I was saying this earlier today that I had put a crimp cover. So that's what it would actually look like if you did a fold over crimp and put a crimp cover. That's what it would look like. So that looks good too if you don't have the magical crimping plier. And then I am going to trim away these 2 wires here. I am done with those. And now I can finish off my bracelet with this Czech glass flower, which I think just looks great because I have it in one of the multi-strand section of the bracelet, and I just thought it just made a beautiful appearance to also be at the end of the bracelet coming around to the other flower cluster. I just love the way this is turning out. I'm just going to check my length quickly and make sure, and it looks like I have it absolutely perfect. I don't even think that I'm going to do a gold spacer. I'm going to do another little number 2 crimp tube, and it's going to look like one of these little gold beads. And I did check, it's wonderful that this 19 strand does go twice, so I can feed it back down through the little Czech glass flower. I was really glad because I like to trim away from my clasp if it's at all possible. It's not always possible. And sometimes I really want a bead like on the end of my bracelet, like I did over here. I really wanted that leaf there and it's just not going to work, but it's just something I try to do. So I'm just going to move everything down and get a nice small loop in there because I'm going to use a gold filled jump ring and the end of my toggle there, and just straighten this up a little bit. I like to go slowly at this point. I sometimes get excited because I've done so much work, and especially on a day like today where all I really wanted to do was work on my bracelet, but other things kept making their way into the schedule unexpectedly. So I like to just take my time before I do that final crimp because I avoid mistakes that way, not to get too excited about the piece. If I need to make a little bit more space, which it kind of feels like I do, if I need to loosen things up a little bit, I don't want any weird spaces, but on a design like this, it just is beneficial to spend a little time with it before the final crimp because you know, there's a lot going on in this design. And so even that just playing with it, I have like made the space, made it a lot better than what it was, and I'm really happy with that. So same thing again, magical crimping plier. Okay, I'm gonna, whoops, can't trim with the bent chain nose pliers. Trim that away, and now I can just add my, I think I got, yeah I did, I got two gold filled jump rings here. And like when I have such high quality beads, and this Czech glass bundle was just filled with such beautiful beads, and when I have this kind of quality that I'm working with, I like to make the quality of my other things that I add in, like jump rings, a little bit better. So I do keep a supply of gold filled items for this purpose. I can link these below in the description box. And so this is so beautiful. I love it. It's about to be more beautiful because the two little additional charms that I plan to add, I think are going to be great. But you know, you can never clasp a bracelet when the camera's rolling. But oh wow, look at that. It is stunning. I absolutely love this bracelet. And as I said, when you do like a cluster like this, it may look a little strange when it's down on the mat, but when it's on the skin, you know, when it's on the body, your arm holds the cluster up, so you just see all the detail of those gorgeous flower beads. It is amazing. I love it. Okay, let's add our final two little things to this. So I do think I could go here. I could go here with my leaf and my flower, but I really think that I'm going to do it here. And before I do, I am going to make a simple loop on the back of this flower, and I'm just going to use my one-step looper. It's just easier. Just going to feed that back through there. And I just want to make sure that I'm not putting stress, because you can break even this bead if you put stress on this. So I'm going to pull it back a little bit, and before I close all the way, just pull that little grouping out. And if you're ever feeling like you are stressing, like if you're using this tool and you feel like you are stressing the bead by closing it all the way, then don't close it all the way. Just take the tool away and you can finish up the closing part with your pliers. But see, I have enough space that it's going to have some movement, and I didn't put any pressure on those beautiful glass beads. So there, I got a perfect little simple loop. I bent it a little bit. Oh, and by the way, the ball head pins that I'm using are from a wonderful company that I love, another small business, a father and son business. They do an e-coating on all of their metal beads and findings and chains that is anti-tarnish, and they do it in-house. And I met them at a bead show here in Orlando last year, and then I've met them again, and I've negotiated a little discount for my audience that are first-time buyers to the website. I'll put that link below, and so you use that link and then also my code, and you can get 10% off of your first order. And believe me, aside from the e-coating, which is fabulous, the items that they have are so unique. I don't see them anywhere else. So in this project, I was literally only using the ball head pin, but it's when I talk about raising the quality of the elements, because my beads are so beautiful, that's another thing that I did to make a little bit better quality in this piece. Okay, last thing is to open this jump ring. And I do like, I'll put this on and show you kind of the way that I put charms on a bracelet, and I'll show you why. I have a bracelet on that I have also done this. I want to make sure it's closed really well so it doesn't sneak in between. That is perfection. So now I have this beautiful little leaf and charm, and the thing is, this can go 180 degrees around the bracelet, and I'll show you on this one. That is the way I like to attach my charms, because then whether I put the bracelet on this way or I flip it around, no matter how this moves on my wrist, my charms are not kinked. They're not caught on a, a certain loop. No matter how I attach it, I can always enjoy the dangles and charms on my jewelry. So that is my little trick. Like, instead of connecting inside a loop where it has to, because if you are to connect on a loop, then your dangles have to either fall on this side or that side, and when you're wearing a piece, that can make it not lay so nicely. But when you connect it this way, and then when it's on, it doesn't matter how you move, it will, or how you have it on, it looks great. It's a little bit competing with the bracelet I was wearing today, but that is absolutely stunning. I am thrilled with the way this turned out. I cannot recommend enough this new little thing that Stella from didi'sbeads is offering. She does these deluxe Czech bundles, and they are packed with amazing Czech glass beads, as you see. Just as a sampling, I was able to do this artwork. This is literally jewelry art. I am so thrilled with it. I love, love, love it. And I just think if you can get your hands on it, she sells out of things so quickly. If you can get your hands on it, I'm sure you won't be disappointed. So again, I'll leave the links for that in the description box, and I will put some pictures up at the end of the video of this beautiful artwork. And I hope that you picked up a little trick or a technique or a design idea in this video. Sometimes the mechanics of a piece just have to be worked out, so like what I did here, I couldn't fit 3 strands through certain beads. So I did a crimp bead, and then continued or fed in. Like, that was my little trick on this piece, is to add my 3rd wire through a bead that will accommodate it and crimp it right in, and then keep designing. So I hope you picked up a little tidbit of information for your own work or some inspiration. And I thank you so much for watching. If you have not subscribed to my channel, it is a lovely way to support my work. And if you will hit the bell notification, then you won't miss any of my upcoming videos. And even if you don't love everything that a person makes, sometimes you learn even for something that you do want to do. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you're all safe and well and having fun on your beading mats. See you in the next video. Ciao, jewelry making friends.